All right. So thank you for joining us today. We've got a great guest. I'm really excited. I was hoping to bring him in June, and then he was like, "Man, I'm launching my book this week. I'd like to move that up if you can." I said, "Absolutely." We have Tony Watley joining us today. Now an Amazon, number one best time seller in the, I think it's business marketing. Is that right, Tony?
Correct. Business marketing category, number one bestseller.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've known Tony for a long time. He's actually one of my clients. Probably about the third year of my business, helped him and his wife Lisa sell their home down in Summerwood. They moved out to the Woodlands, Conroe area. And, I've been keeping up with Tony for a long time. He's had a very interesting career. I'll let him get more into that. But what amazes me consistently about Tony is when he has his mind focused around something, he goes out and gets it. And it's not like one of these overnight things. I see that a lot in the real estate industry, the insurance industry, the mortgage industry. I want to go out and close 8 clients this month, and you've only been closing 1 or 2. You don't have the plan in place. And Tony's very methodical, and you're going to see that in Tony, where he's just kind of built this thing and built this thing and built this thing, and then just all of a sudden explodes. And I'm really excited to see where it goes now that the book's launched and you're starting to offer coaching yourself to business startups. And I'm really excited and being a part of that journey with you. And so, Tony, I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself. We don't have to go back to the time that you were born. Let's start with when you started your first career and you start building websites and that sort of thing.
Well, I'm a native Houstonian. I was actually born in Japan on a Marine base, but then I moved to Houston when I was 3. So I've been in the Houston area my entire life. I grew up down in Friendswood, and I've lived all over Houston, downtown, midtown, Katy, Atascocita, Humble area, and then now we're in the Woodlands area. So I know the area really well. And my background is I grew up lower middle class, I would say, very small home, humble parents, blue collar, and I worked out in the field doing construction as a welder, pipe fitter, and that helped me pay for my own college. And I went to engineering school, got a mechanical engineering degree, and then worked in the engineering sector. Then I got into more project management. So my career in the last 25, 27 years has actually been in oil and gas project management. And along the way, I've always created businesses on the side. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I can remember even being a kid buying candy at the store and then flipping it at the school and doubling my money by putting it in little Ziploc bags.
My kids are doing that today.
Blue Pops or Jolly Ranchers, things like that. I was always trying to figure out how to increase my money from my investment. And that's just something I've always had. I never understood why. I just knew that there's something I wanted to do, and I thought it was going to be easy. So entrepreneur, I started a business in 2001. It was an online automotive community. My passion is cars. So I'm a big car fanatic. I love to race and build cars. And I built a couple businesses around that. And one of them really took off. And it became the busiest General Motors website, like the performance community on the internet. And to give you an idea of how busy it was, we had about 100,000 visitors per day visited that website.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's like a small or a medium-sized city walking through your showroom every day, if you can imagine that amount of people.
And you built this yourself. You didn't have anybody else do it for you.
Correct. I taught myself how to code and write HTML, and it was a forum software. We put it up on a server and had a hosted server, and it just grew. I mean, it started out, I think we were paying $50 a month to host this thing. Startup costs were hardly anything. I think it was $350 for the software licenses and the server rental. And it just blew up. And within 5 years, we were already, netting about $400,000 to $500,000 a year in profit. So that was a part-time job. So that gives you an idea.
Side hustle as your
side hustle.
Right.
And that became the basis of the book I just came out with that Jeremy just mentioned. It's Sidehustle Millionaire. It's a title that's basically my story, but I'm trying to get to the professionals and people like yourselves who are doing your own thing and small business owners and how they can do things better and be more efficient, set bigger goals. I think a lot of people just think too small. And especially in the side hustle community, there's a lot of people out there just thinking really small, making a hobby out of things without understanding that the time invested that they could be doing a whole lot more and making a lot more income from that. So that's why I created this book. It just hit Amazon yesterday. You can look on Amazon.com and search my name or the title and find it, or you can go to sidehustlebook.net to see a copy. But yeah, as Jeremy said, we hit #1 bestseller in only 9 hours. And that's a crazy, crazy thing. It's only about 1% of books ever hit #1 bestseller in any category. And this wasn't just a fluke accident. I mean, I've been doing a lot of preemptive marketing and social media progress on this book for the last 6 months. I only started writing it in December. So it's not something that I've been cranking on for 3 years. I did it in 4 months, and I hired the experts at the end to do the cover design and the marketing and the editing and the formatting. I just created the content. They did everything else. So yeah, it's been
a plan, right?
It's all planned, man. It's all like, what goal do I want? You know, we talked about, Jeremy and I, we talked about vision boards, and I've shared my vision board in the group that I run on Facebook. And right in the middle of it says Amazon #1 bestseller, and that's been on there since December. So every single time I fire up my computer, I shut it down for the evening, my background is the vision board. You can see it, and it always reminded me. So it always kept me on track. It's like any decisions I made in that period of time, if it didn't lead to what I was looking at, then I was going to do something else.
Yeah, and the other thing that I picked out of that was leverage. And you said, hey, you know, I can write the content, but when it comes to actually putting the book together and the marketing part of it, I'm going to go find those that do it really, really well. And we talk a lot about that in coaching and the industries that I'm in. Is go out and sell, go make the money, find the other people that you can bring in and leverage. And I think you've done a great job. I watched the interview with the guy that did your book. The guy's super smart. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a marketing guru, man, for social media. He's excellent.
Yeah. So a lot of similarities, and you know, one of the other things before we jump into the topic is I want you to talk a little bit about the car build that you did. That's been one of the most amazing things following you, hearing that story, that you just decided you're going to build a car. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I was staff at Chevron. It was a mid-level management type position at Chevron. And as you know, we had the oil industry downturn here in the Houston, really worldwide, and about 3 years ago. And it's still kind of lingering on, to be honest. I was working in the offshore sector. It still hasn't made that recovery. And so I got laid off after being employed for essentially, 30 years straight, never been unemployed. And then it was driving me crazy because I always felt like I had to be doing something. And I was killing myself on LinkedIn and all these job posting sites, looking for jobs every day to replace that income. And after I did that for about a month, and I could just tell myself was deteriorating mentally and physically because I wasn't spending time at the gym or doing things like I normally enjoy. I was like, had the scarcity mindset because I'd never been in that situation. And I said, you know what, screw this. It's just not how I am. I'm not like that. So I have a shop in the back of my property, and I just got my car back from the painter, probably 3 months before I got laid off, but I was so busy at work that I didn't have time to mess with it. And I said, you know what? I got a big pile of boxes of parts back there and this freshly painted shell of a car. So I'm going to go out there and build an entire car. And that's because I needed something that I could show progress every single day and have these little quick wins. And every single day I was out there 10 to 12 hours a day, working. And my wife, love her to death. She was out there bringing me food and like letting me keep busy and not interrupting me and helping out when we could. Friends were dropping by to, lend a hand when I needed it. And every day I had some progress and I could show something. And I was sharing this entire journey on social media, like every single day of what I was doing, what we accomplished, the mess ups I was showing the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I was like, just, this is what it is. I had a blood vessel burst in my eye, like I was working so hard and it like turned blood red. And I was showing photos of that. I was like, this is crazy, and so I was dedicated and I built this car and I built the entire car in 5 months. And, to give you an idea, this magazine actually just came out this month, and that's my car on the cover.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw that. That's a big accomplishment.
To build a level of car that's, to give you an idea, I take things a little extreme and I go things a little serious, but I don't deviate from the plan. So that's kind of 2 great examples. I can't believe they both got published at the same time. because we did that photo shoot like 9 months ago. That's how long it takes for them to finally put your thing in print.
Yeah, no, and I saw what you start out with. And so, it's that progression, that being focused, that being purposeful, and knowing the end goal in mind, and knowing that it's going to take steps to get there. And you just stayed with it. And, just as we look at our real estate businesses or insurance businesses or mortgage businesses, you know, we've got to have the end plan in mind, but know that in reality, there's going to be some steps along the way, and we need to follow that plan all the way out to completion in order to get to that goal. So that's a great example right there of, being able to accomplish that through the build of a car.
Yeah, and I think honestly, the project management background that I have also ties into a lot of that, because it's all planning. I'm used to managing 100 to 500 million-dollar projects with 100 different people and contractors and suppliers and manufacturers and engineering, and all these pieces are in motion at the same time, and you're having to coordinate them like an orchestrator and make sure they all arrive at the exact same target at the same time so we can get that project finished at the execution date with the budget. So I've always had this really big picture, and as a project manager going up through the ranks, you start out with smaller projects that are like $50,000, you get to 100,000, and then you just kind of work your way up, and the more experience you get, the more they pay you, and the bigger the value of the project, that's where your salary comes in. So project manager is a generic title, but you got to realize that you could be making $50,000 a year, you could be making $400,000 a year as the same title. So that's kind of like the risk factor of those, but it's also a good way to think about the steps that are required to get to that goal. Whatever your goal is, you got to define those steps, put them on a calendar, put them on a timeline, and then just stick to the plan. The plan is what it is. It's defined. Of course, there's going to be times where things deviate and you got to step out, but the main idea is to recorrect it to get back to the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Before we jump in the topic of fear, Tony, I just want to let you know, congratulations again on the #1 bestseller. I just want to let you know, I bought 15 copies to give out to those that are in my Inner Circle coaching program. And for those that are in my Launch to Success, I encourage you to go to buy it. It was like 99 cents for Kindle.
Yeah, until Friday.
Until Friday, so it's going up. Is like $3.64 for a paperback. So
yeah,
go get it. It's what I like about you, Tony, is you're straightforward. There's not fluff in your writing. There's a lot of coaching out there that really focuses on what I call the leprechauns, unicorns, and the rainbows, and not the reality that we're probably facing each day in our business, and not just our businesses, our personal lives. So I appreciate you, and I support you in that. So let's dive in. So I've been building this up because I love the story. I saw it in your Toastmaster speech, the story of fear. Could you tell us that story and how it changed your life, and how that if we're facing a fear in our business, a lot of times we have the fear of knocking on a door. We have fear of asking for the business. We have fear of making that cold call, or sometimes we may even have fear of success. Could you tell us the story and how it changed your life around the topic of fear?
I've always been pretty fearless as a person anyways. I grew up as a daredevil, and I've got a lot of scars. You can see I'm covered with a lot of things that I just always got myself into, played sports, motocross, skateboarding. So I've been mostly fearless on the physical aspects of things, but there's always these mental fears that we always had to overcome. And, I've gotten a lot better with experience and doing things and gaining confidence, and really, we'll get into that in a little bit. But one thing, an event happened to me, I guess a little over 2 years ago. I was in a major car accident. And this was when I was doing test driving for high performance drag racing cars. So I was driving a vehicle that was owned by a performance shop. They wanted me to get the best numbers out of it. And that's my background, as I've always been asked to do test driving to get the best lap times at a road course or the best quarter mile times out of these cars. And that was for magazines and all kinds of things. And so the example was it was a car that I was actually kind of used to driving. So no surprises there. I actually have a similar car to that. And I was going down the track, and I had one more gear to go in fourth gear, and I was doing about 130 miles per hour. Then something in the suspension came loose, and the car lost control. And I can kind of describe the emotions of that without being on stage, because I did give a great presentation, really a contest speech on this subject. But the emotions I went through went from fear initially when the car started getting out of control and getting out of line. because I felt like I could still control that situation. I thought I could still recover that car somehow. And it started to approach the wall on the right side. And I'm looking at it outside the window, and it's getting closer and closer. And I'm trying to keep that car from hitting the wall and damaging the car. And then the wall, the side of the car like smashed down the side of this wall. Went at about 130. And then in that moment, my fear that I previously had became anger. So now I was angry because I let myself down. I damaged this car that I didn't own. And I was thinking that the worst was over, okay? And in the car, I started trying to slow down. And then all of a sudden, that car took a really hard left turn off of that wall. And I was looking directly at the wall on the other side of the track, still doing 130 miles per hour, facing a wall, oncoming. The steering wheel was still straight, but the car was going left. So you can imagine like how crazy that feels. And here's the other emotion that arrived out of that. In that moment, I felt peacefulness. I actually thought that I was going to die. I looked at that wall and I said, here we go. This is how I leave this earth. And it was a milliseconds because the car was going so fast, but it felt like an eternity. And I'm not going to give you the cheesy lines like there's no life flashing before my eyes and that kind of thing. I just knew that I had really bad odds against me facing a wall at that speed, a concrete wall that I knew wasn't going to move. And I just felt peacefulness in that moment. I had like no fear. It was really strange. And I hit the wall and I survived. And then my training kicked in and I realized that I had to get out of that car as soon as it came to a rest because you never know what's going to catch on fire. So all I can do is remember the glass shattering and the airbags going off and filling the cabin with the white smoke and the lights were flickering on and off. And it was night. So it was going dark and light and dark and light. And, these noises and G-forces on my body. And I just focused on being conscious. Like I need to stay awake. That's all I can remember is like just holding on the steering wheel, like stay awake, stay awake, stay awake. So when it come to rest, I pried the door open and crawled out and the entire front of this car was caved in and every single body panel on this car was damaged. And I just stood there and I was really calm. I was really like this peaceful feeling. It's just really strange. I was looking at the car and then the ambulance and the track crew arrives and the paramedic inspected me and she looked me over and looked for any kind of bruising or injuries or things that I may not be aware of, and they checked my vitals. And she made a really interesting comment as well. She's like, "You are remarkably calm for someone who's been in a major accident." And that's something that I'll never forget. And it kind of spurred something in me that this could have been my last day on earth. And why am I so calm? That was just profound. Like you're facing your certain death and you feel peaceful in that moment. That's not something I would have thought I'd been like, but it wasn't. And so I started doing more research on that. And I found that a lot of people share that exact same peacefulness when they feel like it's going to be their death, or even the ones that have died and came back or they were resuscitated, they felt peaceful in that moment. So it's the opposite of what you think. You think that the highest fear is death. Right. The very highest fear is death. And the fact that I'd never felt fear while facing death is just really, really strange to me. So
number two is?
Well, yeah. Public speaking.
Moving.
What is it?
Moving.
No, it's public speaking, man. Those two actually swing back and forth. Some people would rather die than do public speaking.
Yeah.
So
taking that experience of that peacefulness and that it should have been expected fear, right? How did that translate into your life? How do you look at things through a different lens now?
I realize that every single day matters, and that even though that when we're looking at our lives from our own perspectives, we feel like it's a long time, but we're really just a drop in the bucket from eternity, and that we have very, very limited time here on earth, and that we need to decide what we want to do that's going to make us the happiest and provide the most value that's going to make you rememberable. I mean, there's sad things that you read, like a lot of times you don't really think about it till you start getting close and you start wanting to build legacy. But the truth is most people are not remembered beyond 2 generations. So I can think about that. It's like, I didn't know my great grandparents, and I still don't know. I couldn't even tell you their middle names. it's 2 generations ago and I've forgotten. I don't know about them. And that's the situation how most people are. It's like, and I decided at that moment, it's like, I do not want to be that person that's going to be forgotten in 2 generations. So what do I need to do to ensure I do something to influence thousands of people or help other people or build my own legacy?
Or for my real estate agents, not forgotten in the next week. And then that person decides they're going to sell their home and hire somebody else.
Yeah.
I just forgot. So with most everybody on this call being in sales, what advice would you give them?
Get used to rejection. That's the big one. I think that's the biggest fear for most people to process, is the fear of rejection. Fear of failure, not as bad in an entrepreneurial spirit once you've already committed, and you guys already have, because you're real estate, you got your license, you're working. You've already kind of processed that rejection thing and you made to go for it. So that's one less thing that you have to worry about. The rejection part's the most part, I think, and that's just a human nature. Even animals don't like to be rejected. Think about that. I mean, when you scold your dog, they get all, emotional about it. It's a defense mechanism that we want to go somewhere that's going to make us safe. Mm-hmm. So once you can process that rejection is actually just part of the process. Failure is just part of the process. It's not something that you should embrace like, oh, I want to fail and fail my way up. I don't believe in that. I think you should always mitigate risks and reduce your failure. But I also think that you got to realize that it's part of the process. And if you want to be success, there's like this risk versus reward thing. And you got to understand that you're going to have to take more risks. You're going to have to do more things that make you feel uncomfortable. You're going to have to worry about people criticizing you. You're going to have to worry about people telling you no. And after a while, it just kind of gets numb. I've been in retail myself, and even as a project manager, before I was working as the client, I was on the other side of that table, and I was having to sell the services and the products of the company and really put myself out there. And there was always that rejection, and I get rejected for millions of dollars. That's not like, I'll see you tomorrow. It's you just kind of get used to it. And, Jeremy, like you guys coach, and with real estate especially, it's all about the law of the numbers. Mm-hmm. So if we already know that you guys have a 1 to 3% success rate, man, hearing no is kind of like, okay, keep going. Because if you ask 100 people, you're going to get maybe 1 to 3 different leads out of that. And I think that's the important thing, is to understand that that is part of that process. That is part of that job that you're on. And if you deviate from that process, you're not going to get the same results. And if you want to double that results, ask 200 people, ask 400 people, ask 800 people. So it's kind of like, you just have to understand that rejection phase, it's just ordinary. That's like part of the job.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, we have to remember that no might just be no right now. It's not no indefinitely. And so, all those conversations that we have, we may only get 1 to 3 yeses out of 100. Yet some of those people that you're cultivating, the other 97, might turn into something down the road. So, we can't give up hope and knowing that no is not an end all be all.
Yeah. And it goes back to personal branding, personal marketing. The purpose of marketing, here's what I do. Like a lot of small business consulting, and a lot of people have this ill-conceived notion of marketing. They think that, let's take example for an automotive shop, somebody that may be consulting. They're like, oh, I'm really busy right now. I mean, all of my bays are full. The mechanics are busy, so I can cut back on advertising. And I look at them, I say, you don't get what marketing is. Mm-hmm. It's like, marketing is not to build capacity. Marketing is not to fill your shop. Marketing is to build brand awareness. And to, like you said, like that no that you hear today may come back later. So, but if you quit advertising and quit marketing yourself, then you get forgotten. Mm-hmm. And then when people start to wonder, like, is that place still in business? Are they still around? I haven't seen them advertise lately. I mean, that's the negative side of marketing that you never want to be on, because now when you do get hungry and you do have low capacity and you do need to fill that shop back up, and you start going crazy advertising and marketing and doing these things again, you're going to come off as desperate.
I talk to my coaching clients all the time.
Yeah, and disappear.
I hear that story over and over and over again. They come to me and they're upset and they're wailing and gnashing of teeth. Jeremy, this person was a friend of mine, and they went with this other realtor, and I have to ask, when's the last time you've talked to them? And well, it's been 7 or 8 months.
There you go.
and they forget. And it's not
they
because they
forget,
didn't
or
use them.
the other person's being more, aggressive and being more involved in their social.
And their marketing, I think, as well too.
Right.
They're branding themselves, and they're present.
I think if you come off as professional and dedicated and you show consistency over a long period of time, people respect that. Because let's face it, even guys in my position where I'm doing business consulting or writing books, man, a lot of people come and go. They're like flashes in the pan. And as a human nature, we tend to be skeptics. And anytime somebody hits the scene and they're really aggressive with marketing and doing all this, you kind of sit back like this and you go, I don't know how long this is going to last. Let me see how far this lady or this guy's really going to push this. I want to see if he's actually legit or he's just making a gung-ho effort at the beginning. And honestly, from the experiences I've seen in social media and influencing, which is a perfect opportunity for real estate agents, you gotta see it through for about 4 to 6 months consistently before you start to get any attention of the people that are watching you. And if you don't make it past that phase, they're going to be like waiting for you to flop. And if you do, they're going to be like, told you. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. So you got to really see it through and just be consistent every day. Just show somebody what you're working on. Show some leads. Like, show that you're taking it seriously, and then that's what people are going to be interested in you.
Yeah, I've been talking more and more with my coaching clients about forming groups on Facebook. Obviously, we know that the analytics have changed in the Facebook world. To really kind of knock down the pages, it's an out pay to play. And I've watched you build your group from, I think I might have been number 10 in it. Now it's like over 1,500 in less than 6 months. And it's a page that, I can see daily in my feed where somebody's coming in, they're asking a question, they're bringing value to everybody else in the group. Where if I'm a real estate agent or an insurance agent, mortgage person, a small business, where do I start with that?
I would say that if you're going to use social media, the most powerful form of advertising on social media is Instagram and Facebook, but it's not just creating posts. The best way to get the algorithm to get you bumped in front of the most eyeballs is firing up your camera and doing live videos. And that goes back to that public speaking fear, right? I mean, most people are like, oh man, I can't do that. And let me give you a story on this, okay? Because in June of last year, I started going after my fears, and I knew that I had this book that I wanted to write. I needed to be able to communicate better, be able to share my story, be more confident on interviews like these live interviews and podcasts and radio. And I knew that I did not have that public speaking skill. It made me scared. I would get hot. Temperature would rise, and I'd start getting the sweats, and palms would get cold. So all these, physiological fears would kick in whenever I had to stand up. And believe me, I've done, it's not the same. Like, I've had people like, well, I do presentations at work. I was like, you don't get the difference between public speaking and doing presentations, because I'm an excellent presentation person that can flip slides and read a slideshow to you and doing this. But getting up on stage in front of hundreds of people and having to engage them, entertain them, and make some stage presence, that's a whole other set of level of skills. So a lot of people kind of discredit, like, well, I can stand up in front of people and do that. It's like, yeah, until they do that, until they show up and they do that. So I joined Toastmasters.org. And if any of you guys that are watching now, or anybody that watches this replay, look up Toastmasters.org. It's a nonprofit, high supportive, very inexpensive club group format that's around your area. They're international, so you can zip code search. You can find one in your area. They're usually like meeting like one day a week, like hour and a half. And this is where you're going to go to get public speaking skills. You're going to get practice. You're going to get support. And they're going to give you feedback. You'll do speeches, you volunteer, and you go at your own pace. You can go there and sit for 6 months and never do anything, but you're going to learn by listening to the feedback and the evaluations that we give to people. So I decided I wanted to get better at making videos and doing live videos and doing this kind of thing. And I joined Toastmasters, and it was stepping way out of my comfort zone. And it was crazy to do that, but I pushed myself because I had a mission. I had a book that I wanted to write. And so I'm going to give you myself 6 months to get better at this at least. And so I showed up every single Monday night. There's one in the Woodlands. It's Monday night. I'm not sure where you guys are all at, but I invite you over there if you want to. And I volunteered to do these roles. So there's so many volunteer roles, like in each meeting, where you're an evaluator, or you're counting people's ums and ahs and buts and what we call filler words, or you're the someone that's doing an impromptu speech for 1 minute, or you're telling the joke of the day, or telling a wit and wisdom, which is like another 1 minute voluntary speech. So they give you all these opportunities to get in front of a crowd, to get better at speaking. And then what I was using was my camera on my phone. Like every week I would just fire this thing up and do like a selfie video that I would post on my Instagram and my business page on Facebook. And at first I wasn't doing them live, but that's fine, because the recorded videos are second highest on the algorithm ranking. Mm-hmm. So if you create original content and you upload it onto Facebook, or you upload it onto Instagram, like directly, they will rank that higher, and they'll place it in front of more of your viewers. If you go put it on YouTube and then you share it on those platforms, it gets ranked lower because they're competitors and they don't like that. So you got to make sure you upload the native file directly from your phone to that for each profile. And you can go back on my social media. I'm on Instagram at 365driven, and you can go scroll back to June and you'll see the very first video that I made back then. And it sucks. It sucks bad, man. It's I'm sitting in my SUV and I'm like trying to give a motivational speech. The message is good. The message that I had was good, but I'm very monotone and, just kind of feeling out of it. But I knew it sucked, but that was the best I could do at that time. And I said, you know what, I'm going to leave these up here kind of as a breadcrumb trail that leads back to where I am, wherever I end up. I'm not there yet, but I want to be able to reference those for my people to go find those and look, I sucked. I just kept doing it. I kept doing it. Every week I made a video. I had people talking crap on my video and just saying hateful things and making fun of me. And I was like, hey, thanks, man.
It's engagement, right?
Appreciate your comments, because what they don't understand is when anytime somebody comments or engages on your social media, it boosts your algorithm so more people see it. So embrace your naysayers and your haters, and just kind of just kind of politely go, hey, thanks a lot, and then when you start doing that, you diffuse them and they get bored and they eventually just go away and find somebody else to mess with. So keep doing that kind of thing. Keep doing something like Toastmasters if you're not confident firing up the camera, and eventually your recorded videos will become live videos, and you'll be very confident at doing those. You won't notice the difference between them. You'll be able to shoot things in one take. You'll be able to embrace your flaws or things that you mispronounce or your stutters. Like it's just practice. The better, nobody likes the way they sound recorded. Nobody likes to see themselves on video. It's just kind of awkward at first, but over and over and over and over, it gets easier and easier and easier. And that is the most powerful marketing that is not being used. It's not being used really by anybody. If you think about all the people out there in sales and marketing, personally, if I create another company and it's a sales and marketing role, I'm looking for a business development role, I'll part of the interview will be like, pull out your phone. Let's do a live video. Like shoot a live video and sell something to me right now. I want to see how you do. And if they can't do that, they're not going to be working in my social media advertising type atmosphere, because that's huge. I'm paying you a lot of dollars to do that. It's like, you got to be able to do that. That's powerful. And it doesn't cost you guys anything. It costs you fear. Pay for it in your fear points, right? Like it's scary. I'm worried about people rejecting me. But you know what here? Most people, when you think about the real simple aspects, are you really going to let other people dictate your life? That's what it comes down to, Jeremy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing with video, and I've done a lot more video, and my coaching clients may notice that I've been doing more and more video, and it's just,
you have.
And what happens is just you forget that the camera is even in front of you. It's just like I'm having a conversation with another person right here. It just happens to be a Logitech Brio 4K. And what happens is, especially in our industry, is I may see one person within our industry. And Susan Brown, I did see your video. I see you're watching. I did see that video. That's awesome. Good job. But I may see one person in my industry in the area that I primarily coach in a week post a video, and which leaves this huge opportunity to be able to come sweep in and just dominate it. Because like you said, especially if you go with Facebook Live, it's the highest ranking you're going to get in Facebook. And if your followers are commenting, liking it, it's one of those videos. Like I see your videos all the time. They keep showing up in my feed. I'm almost going to have to hide you. But
yeah, I hear that a lot
because they're getting engaged with. And I think if people would take that opportunity, I was watching an interesting video with Gary Vee the other day. He was talking about all these industries that are coming into the social media world. and buying up advertisement. And what's happening is they're going to drive up the price to where it's no longer going to be affordable. So, the window is now to take advantage of that, and especially using Facebook Live. There's nobody that's doing that in my market area. I do see occasionally, like I said, maybe once a week, an agent will post something, about their business.
Yeah, it should be honestly, if you wanted to be a real awesome person on social media and you're marketing something, I think if you did 2 videos per day, you would just be so far ahead of people. They wouldn't even be able to keep up. You would be, every one of the people that follow you on your Facebook friends list, they would see your face every time they fired up Facebook, and you can't pay for that kind of advertising. So
yeah. Talk about a new listing, or talk about something that's reopening here in Kingwood. Everything got flooded and now they're starting to reopen. Talk about that. Talk about
just
new loan
content.
products.
It's what we call, and if you watch Gary Vee videos, he does a lot of it. He's got a guy that now just follows him around and films his whole day, and they clip it into a segment. So he has like this online show now. It's grown incredibly, but he talks about, don't worry about being creative, just make content. So if you're having some kind of random thought about real estate or anything, let's talk about like things that you have values. Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to talk about leadership or success, or something, or a book that you read that you really enjoyed that you think that your listeners would enjoy. Just fire up the camera, make a video, talk about it, because now you're becoming interesting. You're showing your human side. You're not just showing like, I'm a realtor and I'm always trying to sell your house. I'm always trying to get someone to buy. You're like, you don't want to do the hard sell, because what happens is you want to build that character persona, your personal brand online, and people are going to get curious. They're going to go, well, what does Will do? What does Marie do? Then they'll look on your profile, because people always Facebook creep. So build the interest, and they're going to find out what you do. And once they know what you do, it kind of starts to establish in their mind what you do. And you don't always have to talk about exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, and I like the fact, you gave the example of how you started out compared to how you are now and how it's progressed over time, is that we're usually harder on ourselves than the viewers. And it's just about going and doing it. And people don't mind necessarily the stutters or the fillers or those type of things. I think sometimes if it's over polished, people will look past it. Whereas if it's natural and it's that person and that's how they see that individual, then they start developing a relationship through the video. It's that how that person is, how that person acts. Whereas if it's over polished, it's almost a little too salesy. It's too overdone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll share a tip with you guys if you want to practice making videos with a little bit less like fear of doing that. I asked a friend of mine, he does television shows and these car shows, and he's always been awesome on camera. And one day I decided I want to start doing that. I just hit him up and say, hey man, what's your trick? Did you have training to be able to speak like that on camera or anything like that? And he goes, here's the thing that I always think about when I fire up a camera or when I see a camera. He goes, I treat this as like I'm talking to my best friend. And then the other tip he gave me is like, don't do it in selfie mode where you can see yourself, because it kind of distracts you until you get used to doing it. And you're going to be like judging yourself as you're watching yourself speaking on that screen. So turn it around, record yourself like this so you don't see yourself. And then think about that lens as just being your best friend. Because if you're having a conversation with the lens like it's your best friend, the thought process is your best friend's not going to judge you.
Right.
They know your flaws. You guys are comfortable speaking. So if you could treat the little lens as your best friend and not worry about being judged and just be comfortable talking to it, record yourself a few times if you want to, make a couple of cuts, and then turn it around and go watch them and see what you're doing good. See if you're doing things wrong. If you're touching your face, you're just doing things that are like nervous kind of tics, like you'll start to see those yourself, and then you'll become more aware of those and you get better and better. So that's some tips I could share with that.
Yeah, and let the haters hate. That's my.
Yeah, I guarantee you that each of us is our own worst critic. Wouldn't you guys agree? Absolutely. And we are very hard on ourselves. And anything that a hater or a naysayer can say to you, I guarantee you've said 10 times worse to yourself in your own mind. So when you start to put that into context, like you start to disregard what other people say. Because you're like, dude, you thought that was bad. You should see the things I say about myself. And then when you know that you can control your own mind, it's like, then you don't really worry about what other people say.
Love it. All right. So Tony, do you have time for just a few questions? Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to unmute everybody. All right. Everybody is unmuted. So what questions based on what Tony shared today do you have?
Don't be scared. I'm going to start calling on you guys.
Yeah. All right, Will, I'm picking on you first. All right, it's a great opportunity. What question would you ask Tony?
And I took in everything you said, Tony. I got a lot out of that. But
There's no but.
I can't think of a question off of the top of my head right now. Give me a second.
We'll come back to you. What about you, Susan?
Well, me doing the video was a step out of my comfort zone, but we've had pretty good success with it. So it tells me it's something I need to be doing. And just like Tony himself said, when he said 2 videos a day, I was like, oh, wow.
It does sound crazy, believe me, but it works. I mean, it's free advertising, and you get boosted in front of your entire network, and just share things that they're going to be interested in hearing. It doesn't always have to be a pitch. That's in one book I would recommend, other than the one I wrote. This one by Gary Vaynerchuk. Everybody write this one down. Jab, 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 right hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. It's on Amazon. It's a former bestseller as well. This book is basically gospel for advertising and all these social media platforms he's got all of them. He's got all of them shown. And what Gary does is he goes through this book and he tells you that each of those social media platforms has a different unique style. They have a different vibe. They have a different thing to engage the audience of each of those. You can't just create one ad and go copy paste on all of them, because it doesn't work that way. They don't resonate with the theme of that social media. Like if any of you guys are on Instagram and Facebook, which are the 2 busiest right now, and if you're not, you should be on both of those. He tells you the marketing strategy of how to use those best, and really goes into really good detail. He's very good at that. And I share a lot of the same things in my book that I just came out with. And there's a lot of different things. I have a marketing strategy, and I talk more about consistency and mindset and all these other things. So, again, you can look this up on sidehustlebook.net, or you can search title or author on Amazon.com. And right now, if you go look on it, it's still #1 bestseller. So that's pretty awesome. We'll try to keep that going all week, at least, before the big books start coming back and pushing it back down. And so fire up the camera. You got to do that. It definitely is uncomfortable, but trust me, it gets easier with time. And if you can keep doing it, you'll just be like, why was I so scared about this?
Mary Ellen, what do you have?
That I always felt handicapped being not a native, and about my accent. I have no fright to go in the parking talk for hours. I have no fright to meet new people and be involved and make people laugh or say a story. But doing a video, if I was 35, perhaps I would have done it. But I think I listened to what was said, and perhaps I would do it. But I think the first step, I think, to get used to it, to do it.
I'm going to scroll. I'm going to find this old video so you guys can see how bad it was. Okay. Looking real quick. I'm going to tell you to take Toastmasters. Okay. There's a lot of people in that group, and it's all ages, all walks of life. It's a great supportive community. Probably about 1/3 of the people that are in Toastmasters in the Woodlands group they're non-native speaking English. And that's the reason they actually joined, is because they wanted to become more confident in speaking at that kind of a level in English, even with their accent. I mean, we embrace the accent, but it always comes back down to the confidence level of you wanting to be able to put that out there. So if it's something you're struggling with, like, definitely step out of that comfort zone and you'll do that.
Would you suggest making a separate business Instagram profile? I've been on Instagram for years now, and it's just, it's kind of large group of people that I went to college with and friends that kind of live all over the country. And I feel like I would definitely reach out to a lot more people if I was using my personal Instagram profile, but would you suggest just making a separate one for just business?
I use one, to be honest. I find it's more authentic and they get to see the human side of you. It is set up as a business page, so I can see the analytics and understand the demographics and the visits, and that's important to see, but that doesn't even cost you anything. So create an Instagram page, set it as a business page. Visually, they don't look any different. It's just that it gives you the analytics, which is important. And here's a video. Let me see if it'll play here. To accomplish or achieve. But most of us sit around and make excuses on why things aren't the way they are, or it's never our fault.
See how boring that is?
Take the victim role, put blame on others.
I remember that video. The first one. I remember you putting that up there.
That was my first one, and I'm going to show you one that I did last week.
You had a lot of engagement with that, and so it kind of goes back to, even if it's not that great or judging yourself, you still had a lot of engagement with that, and that's important.
Everybody, here's one I did last
time that you felt a sense of achievement or accomplishment. Has it been days, months, maybe even years? You're watching people on social media that are just killing it and doing all these things that are amazing and having accomplishments, and you're probably wondering if it has to do with luck. Well, the fact is it has nothing to do with luck. It's that these people created the opportunities for themselves to become achievers and feel that level of success. You have to go out there and see.
So that just shows you right there. That's just under 1 year difference. Sitting in the exact same vehicle with a similar message, but just learning how to become a better communicator. And that's what public speaking training can do for you. And you're using it for video. It's not all about getting on a stage, but if you're ever asked to get on the stage, you will rock that. Trust me, you'll get up there and do that too. So there's a lot of benefits you can get from these groups that are just outside of just normal speaking. Your level of communication just in a conversation goes quite a bit up from doing that kind of training.
Well, Tony, I told you we'd keep this to 45 minutes, and we're just over that time. So just real quickly to finish up, one more time, where can they go find you on Facebook, and then how do they buy the book?
My business page on Facebook is facebook.com/365driven, and you can find me on Instagram as well at instagram.com/365driven, and my personal website for the business is www.365driven.com. So
yeah, if you want to go follow his Instagram, I'd highly recommend that. If you like cool cars, I'm still waiting for you to take me out to race in the Viper. So
yeah, come on over, man.
I'll have Lisa drive me. So.
Yeah, she drives a little crazier than I do, so you may be more scared with her at the wheel.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tony, I appreciate it, and I think everybody got something from this today. I'm going to be posting it to the Kajabi website, so if you want to go back and listen to it again, I'll also be posting some clips within the Facebook groups so that you could go back and be able to grab some of those highlights as well from this conversation today. And cool. Tony, just want to thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, and you've been a longtime friend, and anytime you want to bounce something off me, I'm open to that, and I'm sure I'll have some things I need to bounce off you. So
enjoy the chat, Jeremy. You guys, good to meet you guys online. Maybe we'll see you on the social media too.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.